Hey everybody, welcome to the Mana Leek. I'm John as always, and it is time for the blue limited set review of Magic 2020. If this is the first video of this series you're popping in, it's a little bit different than normal because we are live streaming this over on twitch.tv/themanaleek. We've got chat up above me who's quiet right now, but clicking the screen as you can see. We're doing this as a test to see what a different type of set review is like. So if you like this, let me know in the comments. If you hate this, let me know in the comments. Let me know what you want to know. But we are going to go on and talk about all the blue cards in the set, starting with Baron Tellurian Archmage. Baron Tellurian Archmage is 1 blue for a legendary creature human wizard at rare. He's a 2/2. When Baron Tellurian Archmage enters the battlefield, return up to one other target creature or planeswalker to its owner's hand. At the beginning of your end step, if a permanent was put into your hand from the battlefield this turn, draw a card. I mean, it's a mana war, right? It's a 2/2 for 3 that bounces something. It's a good card. I like Mana War. If you bounce your own thing, which I don't think you're going to do too often unless you're re-triggering a really good ETB effect or pulling something out from underneath a Faith's Fetters, you get to draw a card, and that's a cool little bonus as well. But I think I'm typically going to be bouncing my opponent's stuff. I think I have this as a B+. I love Mana War. I love bounce effects. 1 blue instead of 2 and a blue sucks, but I think it's a B+. Bounce is great. I love bounce. It's a legendary, which is interesting, but it's also a rare, so it's not like you're going to have multiples of these. So, yeah, I think it's just a B+. I think it's a B+. I think, man, rare and legendary really makes me want to downgrade this a little bit, but you can't downgrade it for rarity. B+ for Baron Tellurian Archmage. Up next is Cancel. Cancel is 1 blue for an instant common counter target spell. We talk about Cancel almost every set except for the sets where we get better Cancel. And better Cancel is typically playable. You know, Neutralize was playable. Dissolve is playable. Cancel is not really usually playable. It's in like the C-, maybe even D+ range. It's way better in Sealed, which is slower. There's more bombs to counter in Sealed because everybody had 6 packs instead of 3 packs. Yes, you might get more than 3 rares in the draft, but typically not. So yeah, Cancel is just a card that you generally shouldn't include. It's around a C- or a D+. Avoid it. You'll win more if you don't play it. Up next is Capture Sphere. Gotta catch them all. Pokemon Snap was announced for Nintendo Switch today, which is an important announcement that has to be in this video. Capture Sphere is 3 and a blue for an enchantment aura at common with Flash, enchant creature. When Capture Sphere enters the battlefield, tap enchanted creature. Enchanted creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. We've seen this card, I believe, a couple of times now, and it's a good card. It's 4 mana, basically unconditional removal. It taps the creature. It's just a very decent card. It's around like the B+ range. You know, the mana sinks could still be used on the card or the triggered abilities, etc., but it's removal in blue. It's what blue removal looks like. It's a B+. Up next is Discontinuity. Discontinuity is 3 blue for an instant at Mythic. As long as it's your turn, this spell costs 2 blue less to cast. End the turn. End the turn, which is not a common phrase, means exile all spells and abilities from the stack so they don't resolve, including this card, except it does resolve. The player whose turn it is discards down to their maximum hand size, damage wears off, and this turn and until end of turn effects end. This card's awful. This card's super awful. It's basically Fog. Okay? It's basically Fog. Except you're not only fogging combat damage, you're fogging spells, you're fogging triggered abilities, you're fogging whatever is happening that turn at that moment in time. But 3 blue is insane. I'm never countering a spell for 3 blue with anything else. This card's really bad. I've got this at an F. I think you should just never, ever play this card. F for Discontinuity. Up next is Enthralling Hold. Enthralling Hold is 3 blue for an enchantment aura at uncommon. Enchant creature. You can't choose an untapped creature as this spell's target. As you cast it, you control enchanted creature. It's mind control, but worse. So this is very interesting. This is like the white removal spell, which is great because it's instant speed, kill a tapped creature. Here, you have to get hit by the scary thing that you want to mind control. Now, it's still mind control, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to have to play with this. I have a feeling it's going to be a decent step below Mind Control or Imbolus's Clutches or whatever you happen to know it as. Having to have the creature untapped really sucks. There is a tapper in white, although it's a bit tricky. So we'll see. Odds are you're still just going to have enough targets, and typically the scariest targets will have been hitting you, so they will be tapped, unless they have Vigilance. So it's probably still just like a B. Maybe it's a B minus. Maybe it's a B minus. We'll have to see. I'll have to play with it. The upside on a Mind Control is huge, but the downside exists here. Up next is Frantic Inventory. Frantic Inventory is 1 and a blue for an instant at common. Draw a card, then draw cards equal to the number of cards named Frantic Inventory in your graveyard. Being instant is what saves this quite a bit. I still don't really want to play the first one. The second one, I think I'm pretty okay with. At that point, it's kind of like a think twice. The third one is great, because I'm drawing more cards, which means I'm going to find the rest of my Frantic Inventories. I think I'd play 4 of these. It's going to go great in the blue-green draw cards. It's going to be amazing in the blue-red spells. I think this card's very good once you get past the first one, and preferably the second one. So be careful with this. Don't play the first one, but if you do find yourself getting multiples of these, I think it's going to be decent if you have something to do. If you want instants and sorceries in your graveyard, if you want to draw cards for your lore scale Quaddle, if you are a control deck and trying to find your removal or bombs, etc. So I think it's a decent card. I think it's like a C+ in multiples. Individually, no. Frost Breath, great card from way back like M12-ish, I think, because I believe that's Frost Titan there. Frost Breath is 2 and a blue for an instant at common. Tap up to 2 target creatures. Those creatures don't untap during their controller's next untap step. This is a pretty decent card if you're playing a deck that I used to love that I haven't seen in many formats lately, which is like blue-red tempo. Blue-red, relatively aggressive, but playing cards like this to allow me to continue to be aggressive a little bit more. End of their turn, tap those 2 blockers you had, hit you again. They don't get to untap, hit you again, and then the game ends. I don't know if that deck really exists here. I don't know if that's the blue-red spells deck. I don't think blue-green is really looking for this. I don't think blue-black's looking for this at all. Blue-white, it helps you not die if you're racing your flyers. So I don't know if this has a home in this format so much. I'll have to keep an eye on it. It's probably going to fall around the C range. It's a little bit better than I think people might think, but I think we're going to go with a C for Frost Breath. Up next is Ghostly Pilferer. Ghostly Pilferer is 1 and a blue for a creature spirit rogue at rare. It's a 2/1. Whenever Ghostly Pilferer becomes untapped, you may pay 2 if you do draw a card. Whenever an opponent casts a spell from anywhere other than their hand, draw a card. Discard a card. Ghostly Pilferer can't be blocked this turn. 2/1 for 2 that I can discard to make unblockable. Okay. When it untaps, I can pay 2 to draw a card. Little expensive, but okay. It is nice inevitability towards the end of the game. You know, just knowing that I'm going to be shocking my opponent every turn. Whenever my opponent casts a spell from anywhere other than their hand, I don't know if they're doing that in this format. I don't think we've seen any yet, and I don't know if we will see any. So I don't think that text has anything to do there. Ultimately, I think this card's like a C+. I don't think we can go into the B range for this. You're paying a lot of mana to draw that card. That card that you're drawing is going to be harder to cast because you had to tap 2 mana during your untap step of your turn. Like, if I could pay that 2 mana on my opponent's turn, that would be cool. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not stoked on this. I'm not stoked. I think it's good. I think it's a C+. I don't think I'm going to go into the B range. Could be a B- just because of that inevitability. Because you are drawing a card every turn, so you are going to have a card to discard. All right, let's go B- because of that late game inevitability, but I think it's a weakish B-. It's not the rare that I want to see in my pack. Up next is Jessguy Elder. Jessguy Elder is 1 and a blue for a creature human monk at uncommon. She's a 1/2 with Prowess. Prowess is back, which is whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature gets +1/+1. Whenever Jessguy Elder deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. It's a 1/2 looter that has to hit. Unfortunately, unlike the Shadow Looter, whose name I can't remember, Looter Ilkor, it doesn't have a way of getting through. The Prowess helps as a little bit of a threat of activation, which does make it a little bit scary. I remember this being okay back in Khans of Tarkir or wherever it was, but I don't remember it being incredible. I think this is around like a C+. I'd be careful rating it any higher or taking it any higher, and I think some decks just aren't going to want it. Let's go with C+ for Jessguy Elder. I was going to say bring back Shadow, but no. No, don't bring back Shadow, ever. Keen Glidemaster is up next. Keen Glidemaster is 1 in a blue for a creature human soldier at common. It's a 2/1. Pay 2 in a blue, target creature gains flying until end of turn. 2/1 for 2 is okay. It's a piker. That's like a C-. You'll try not to play it. 2 in a blue to give a creature flying until end of turn. It depends on your deck. It depends entirely on your deck. If you're blue-green Stompy and you're giving a Colossal Dreadmaw flying, awesome. If you're playing blue-white Flyers, this card's not doing anything. Your Flyers already have flying, and it can give itself flying, but you're paying 3 mana to make a 2/1 maybe unblockable. I think this is around a C range. I think people are going to get a little bit too hyped up about this. It reminds me of Zephyr something, a card that I can't remember. It was an enchantment where I think you had to pay 1 in a blue to give a creature flying, and it was terrible. This at least has a body, but I don't think it's that much better. So I'm going to go C on Keen Glidemaster. If you're blue-green Stompy, if you have big things that you want to make unblockable, it goes up like half a grade. Zephyr Charge. Thank you very much, John Redcorn. Up next is Library Larsonist. Library Larsonist is 2 in a blue for a creature Merfolk Rogue at common. It's a 1/2. Whenever it attacks, draw a card. Okay. I think it's okay. It's a 1/2 for 3, which is awful. That's not okay. But it draws on attack. That's like the guy that dealt damage to you and drew on attack from Eldraine, we'll say. War of the Spark, some set. It's okay. It will almost guaranteed die, but you draw a card. You up your lore scale quaddle. You draw into your other things, etc. So I think it's an okay card. I think it's around a C. I'm not going crazy on this. I'm not playing multiples, I don't think. But I think it's okay if you have a reason to want to draw cards. C for Library Larsonist. Up next is Lofty Denial. Lofty Denial is 1 in a blue for an instant at common. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 1. If you control a creature with flying, counter that spell unless its controller pays 4 instead. So it's a 2-mana Force Spike, which is horrible in Limited. Or it's a 2-mana Convolute if you have a flyer, which is okay. Convolute has never been amazing. I play it, but it's never amazing. So I think this is around like a C, maybe even C- if you're in the Flyers deck. And if you're not in the Flyers deck, you don't play this card. You don't play this card at all. So yeah, C- if you're in the Flyers deck. Otherwise, F? Like, yeah, it's just an F otherwise. Up next is Miscast. Miscast is a single blue mana for an instant at common. Uncommon. Counter target instant or sorcery spell unless its controller pays 3. It's Mana Leak. Except it doesn't hit creatures. And Limited is about creatures. How many creatures do we usually play in Limited? We try to play 16-ish, depending on the deck, 15, 16. So, yeah, I don't know about this. By the time your opponent's casting instants and sorceries that you're afraid of, they also frequently have the 3 mana to pay for this. So I'm not stoked on Miscast. I don't really like Dispel usually, or these, or Negate even. And this is a Negate that your opponent can say, okay, sure, I'll pay 3. So I've got this at like a D-. I just don't think I ever want to play Miscast. Up next is Mistral Singer. Mistral Singer is 2 in a blue for a creature Siren at common. It's a 2/2 with flying and prowess. 2/2 flyer for 3 is a Windrake and is a totally fine card. And the fact that whenever I play instants and sorceries, it's a 3/3, 4/4. Maybe I go crazy and miscast my miscast, which miscast my miscast, and it's a 5/5. Yeah, it's solid. It's a strong C+. Blue-white deck's going to be happy with this. Blue-red deck's going to be happy with this. Blue-green's going to be happy with this. Blue-black will play it. Yeah, strong C+ for Mistral Singer. Up next is Opt. Opt is a single blue mana for an instant at common. Scry 1, draw a card. This was my preview card for a set that occurred. Eldraine, I think. Yeah, it's Opt. It's Opt. If you're blue-red spells and you need to cast spells, this is a super cheap spell that replaces itself. If you are Blue, green, draw a card. It draws a card. It's an okay card. It's not a good card, but it's an okay card. It's a C. If you've got a spot, sure. If you've got a reason, sure. Up next is Pursued Whale. Pursued Whale is 5 blue for a creature whale at rare. It's an 8/8. When Pursued Whale enters the battlefield, each opponent creates a 1/1 red pirate creature token with this creature can't block, and creatures you control attack each combat if able. Spells your opponents cast that target Pursued Whale cost 3 more to cast. Whew. It's an 8/8 for 7. That's big. It doesn't have any evasion, but it kind of creates its own evasion by giving your opponent a creature that says your opponent has to attack you. This is going to vary quite a bit, because if your opponent has a giant board and you have 1/8/8 big boy, you're going to take a whole lot of damage on that one attack. You need to be winning the game when the whale swings in. As well, your opponent can play a creature that has summoning sickness and doesn't have to attack, and therefore can chump the whale. I think there's a lot of little things that are going to stop this from being the slam dunk bomb that some people want it to be. Again, like a lot of cards, we're not talking about is this good or bad. We're talking about is this good or great. There is a lot of green ramp for this. It is a great reanimation target. Can you imagine turn 4, I reanimate this off of my Obsessive Stitcher? That's insane. So there are a lot of ways to cheat this out, and I think you want to be cheating this out. You don't want to be playing this on turn 7 or later naturally. So yeah, I think this is like a B. I think this is a good card. I don't think it's a great card. We're not going to go into the A range with it. It's not a C card. It does some interesting stuff. Just beware that sometimes you're not going to have the right board state where this is going to just win the game for you, because it's actually going to lose the game for you, because you can't deal with your opponent alpha striking you. Won't be often, but it'll happen. Be aware. B for Pursued Whale. Up next is Reign of Revelation. We got the hippie with her tie-dye shirt. Reign of Revelation is 3 and a blue for an instant at uncommon. Draw 3 cards, then discard a card. Sure. Instant speed. Kind of inspiration, which is also instant speed. Inspiration is 4 mana to draw 2 cards. I get to discard a card. Cool. Typically pretty darn happy to do that. I think this is just like a B-. I'm not going to go that much higher for draw some cards. That's not a bomb. That's not winning me the game. It's just a good card. So yeah, B- for Reign of Revelation. Blue-green, I'll love it. Blue-black, blue everything, I'll love this. B-. Up next is Read the Tides. Read the Tides is 5 and a blue for a sorcery at common. Choose one, draw 3 cards, or return up to 2 target creatures to their owner's hand. 6 mana to draw 3 cards at sorcery speed. Not a fan. 6 mana to return 2 target creatures to their owner's hand at sorcery speed. Not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of this card. I don't think it's very good. I think it's just too expensive for what it does at sorcery speed. Obviously, there will be situations where 6 mana to kill my opponent because their blockers are gone will be nice, but ultimately I think this is super cuttable and barely even playable. D+. D+ for Read the Tides. Up next is Rewind. Rewind is 2 blue for an instant at uncommon. Counter target spell, untap up to 4 lands. That's right, it's free. If you can cast it. You have to cast it, and then it's free. This is fine. I think a lot of people kind of lost their minds when they saw this because they didn't play with it originally. This was in, obviously this was way back Urza's block, but this was also in M13, I think. And it was fine. It's not exciting. 4 mana is still a lot to counter a spell. And then, untapping up to 4 lands, you have to do something with that mana. Otherwise, you just played a very expensive cancel. So it's fine. It's still around like the C- range. If you are a dedicated control deck, here you go. But it's a C-. It's not as good as you think. C- for Rewind. Up next is Riddle Form. Riddle Form is 1 and a blue for an enchantment uncommon. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may have Riddle Form become a 3/3 Sphinx creature with flying. In addition to its other types until end of turn, pay 2 and a blue, scry 1. This was blue-red spells from Amonkhet? Or Hour of Devastation? Or was it something else? I think it was Amonkhet or Hour of Devastation. It was always an okay card, but never great. Blue-red spells deck existed in that format, and this card still wasn't a card that I was excited to play. The Scry one was nice. It's a mana sink. It's something to do with your mana. And boy, do I have mana frequently. So it's fine. I think it's around the C+ range if you are blue-red spells, if you know you're going to turn it on, if you know you're going to go late game and be able to, you know, just jam mana into this, pay 3, scry 1, pay 6, scry 2. Do whatever you want. I'm not your dad. Yeah, it's fine. C+ if you're in the right deck. Otherwise, don't go crazy on it. Up next is Roaming Ghostlight. It looks like Mana War, and it's not. I should read the rest of the card. It kind of is Mana War. 3 blue for a creature spirit at common. I thought this was a different card. It's a 3/2 flyer. When Roaming Ghostlight enters the battlefield, return up to 1 target non-spirit creature to its owner's hand. It's a 5 mana Mana War. It's a 5 mana Mistraven. Mistraven was a 4 mana 2/2 flyer that bounced a creature. Non-spirit creature is not really a downside. There's basically none. There's 2 rares and 2 commons. So it's going to bounce something of your opponent's almost guaranteed. Yeah, it's solid. We gave Baron a B+. I think we have to knock Baron down to a B. This is a B+. This is a B+. 5 mana 3/2 flyer that bounces a creature is very, very good. Mistraven was one of the best cards in Avacyn Restored, partly because most of Avacyn Restored's cards sucked. But yeah, I think this is a B+. I'm going to love playing this card. Honestly, a little bit surprised it's a common. Probably because it's 5 mana. B+ for Roaming Ghostlight. Boy, let there be a really good, like, blue tempo, but still aggro deck. Up next is Rookie Mistake. Rookie Mistake is a single blue mana for an instant at common. Until end of turn, target creature gets +0/+2, and another target creature gets -2/-0. So your 2/2 becomes a 2/4, and their 2/2 becomes an 0/2. So unfortunately, your creature is never increasing power. So if they weren't already going to kill it, they're still not going to kill it. It's only going to save your creature that was going to die from dying. It's not a good combat trick. I think it might be an F. I think it's an F. There's so few places where this does anything that wouldn't already have been happening without it. There's better instants and sorceries for you to play. Saves 2 of your creatures. How does it save 2 of your creatures? Well, I guess you +0/+2 one of them, and then you -2/-0 another creature that is attacking you. Even then, no. This is an F. Play better cards. Up next is Rousing Reed. Rousing Reed is 2 and a blue for an enchantment aura at common. Enchant creature. When Rousing Reed enters the battlefield, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has flying. It's an aura. It's bad, right? This reminds me of Stratus Walk from Theros. Stratus Walk was 1 and a blue enchantment. Gave a creature flying. It could only block flyers, and it drew a card. And it was good. And this, I think, is also very good. Draw 2 cards, discard a card. It's replacing itself already with a card, not necessarily with a creature. It could be a land or something. Reanimate, or discard for Reanimate, +1/+1 flying. This is actually a decent aura. You can still get 2 for 1, but at least you got a card draw out of it and a discard. I think it's totally okay. It's not a B+. Heat map people up there. I think it is still a strong C+, but a strong C+ here. People are going to pass this card at the start of the format. Pick it up. Pick it up. Up next is Sanctum of Calm Waters. Sanctum of Calm Waters is 3 and a blue for a legendary enchantment shrine at uncommon. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you may draw X cards, where X is the number of shrines you control. If you do, discard a card. 4 mana, and I get to loot. 4 mana is a lot. If this was 2 mana, sold. Sold. I'll loot every turn. May loot. You don't even have to. I would may loot every turn if this was 2 mana. At 4 mana, I don't think I want to play this. I don't think I want to play this at 4 mana. Maybe it's just okay enough. I don't think we're going into D range for this. I think we're on like the C- range. But I don't think I want to go too deep on this. If I have the shrine of my other color, and I'm drawing 2 cards and discarding a card, well, that's a lot better. I think if you do have the other shrine of whatever your second color is, we can pop this up to like a C+, assuming your other shrine doesn't suck. But I think realistically this is around a C- frequently. It's just really expensive. You can't stack them. They're uncommon, so it's not going to be super common that you get this and you also find the other one that you perfectly need for your other color. C- for Sanctum of Calm Waters. Up next is See the Truth. See the Truth is 1 and a blue for a sorcery at rare. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put 1 of those cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. It's Anticipate. If this spell was cast from anywhere other than your hand, it won't be. Put each of those cards into your hand instead. Yeah, you're not casting this. I don't think there's a way to cast this in this format. Perhaps there is, but it's certainly not a common thing to do. So it's just Anticipate at sorcery speed, which makes it pretty mediocre. The thing that makes Anticipate not even good, but playable, is that it's instant speed. So I think this is around like a D. I don't think you should really play this card. So, and boy, does this suck to be the rare in your pack. D for See the Truth. Up next is Shacklegeist. Shacklegeist is 1 and a blue for a creature spirit at rare. It's a 2/2 flyer. Shacklegeist can block only creatures with flying. That's not actually a downside. We haven't seen this in a while, but that's not a downside. That's fine. Tap 2 untapped spirits you control. Tap target creature you don't control. You're not going to do that. Like I said, there are 2 rare spirits and 2 common spirits. You're probably not doing that. If you can, cool. If you have this and the roaming Ghostlight and you can tap them, which means you didn't attack with them, to tap a creature, you're not doing that. You're not doing that. It's a 2/2 flyer for 2, which is fine. It's a C+. It's a good card. The downside is not really a downside. Don't worry about it. It's a C+. Up next is Shipwreck Towser. Shipwreck Towser is 3 blue for a creature merfolk wizard at uncommon. It's a 3/3 with prowess. When Shipwreck Towser enters the battlefield, return target instant sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. 3/3 for 5 with prowess, and I get back removal or counterspell or whatnot. Cool. It's a strong card. I think it might even be a B-, assuming, you know, you're not a blue creature deck, which is not super common, assuming you have instants or sorceries that you want to return. But yeah, I think this is just a B-. It's a late enough drop that you're going to have something in your graveyard. You can hold on to it a little bit. Prowess, so it's probably going to attack as a 4/4, depending on what you pulled out of the graveyard. It's a good card. B- for Shipwreck Towser. Up next is Spined Megalodon. Spined Megalodon is 5 blue for a 5/7 creature shark at common with hexproof. Whenever Spined Megalodon attacks, scry 1. This card is not that great because it costs 7 mana. It's got hexproof, which means it's my nightmare, in addition to it being a shark and me not enjoying sharks. And whenever it attacks, it scries 1. Cool. Now, as somebody nowhere just said, Obsessive Stitcher could put this on the battlefield on turn 4. That is horrifying. Absolutely horrifying, and it's common. So yeah, this depends entirely on your deck. If you are cheating this card out, then I think there's something to be said about it. But you need to be cheating this card out. You cannot be naturally casting this. It's just not going to be good enough. So if you are not cheating this out, it's like a C-. Like, you have to get to 7 mana, and that's so hard. But cheating it out, I think it's like a probably still just a C+. Your opponent can still block it forever. But then you put aura. I'm not even going to talk about putting auras on a hexproof creature. Up next is Stormwing Entity. Stormwing Entity is 3 blue for a creature elemental at rare. It's a 3/3. The spell costs 2 blue less to cast if you have cast an instant or sorcery spell this turn. It's got flying, it's got prowess, and when it ETBs, you scry 2. It does everything. Slices, dices. So it's a 3/3 flyer for 5 with prowess that scries 2. I'd play that 100% of the time. And then if I cast a nice little cheap sorcery, this actually costs 1 and a blue? That's pretty good. Card's very good. I like this card quite a bit. I think it's very strong. It's not a bomb. It's not winning the game. It's not going to be in the A range. But I think it's a strong B. You know, it'll win the game in a few turns, especially if you're prowessing it. I think it's pretty solid. Strong B for Stormwing Entity. Up next is Sublime Epiphany. Sublime Epiphany is 4 blue for an instant at rare. It's got, 31 different options here. Choose 1 or more. counter target spell, counter target activated or triggered ability, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, target player draws a card. This is a good card. I don't think this card's insane. I think it's probably an A-, but I don't think it's an insane card. I've seen people say that this might be like Dream Trawler for the format. I don't agree with that. What you are typically doing with this is you are countering a spell, bouncing a creature, creating a copy of a creature you control, and drawing a card. Creating a copy of a creature you control is the real stickler for me. You have to have a good creature that you really want to copy. Obviously, you're going to do it. If you're countering a spell, you'll copy your 1/1 that you have laying around, because that's all you have laying around. But if you do have something really good, it's going to be amazing. So yeah, this card I think is an A-. I think it's very good, and you really want to be doing all 4 modes. You don't want to be casting this as a clone that draws a card and bounces. You want to be countering a spell too. There's probably just enough value and tempo here that this is a solid A-. I think it's a very good card. I don't think it's... You know, we saw the votes. A lot of people said A+ on this right away. I don't think it's an A+. I think it's just an A- because there is a lot of chances for misses here. But you're still getting a lot of value. A-, we won't talk about it too much more. We're debating on if this card is great or insane, and it's great. Up next is Teferi, Master of Time. Teferi, Master of Time is 2 blue for a legendary planeswalker. Teferi, Ep Mythic. He starts with 3 loyalty, fails the vanilla loyalty test there. You may activate loyalty abilities of Teferi, Master of Time on any player's turn anytime you could cast an instant. What this means is that you can activate Teferi on your turn, at instant speed on your turn. You can activate Teferi on your opponent's turn. Yes, you can activate them on both turns. So I can +1 on my turn, and I can +1 on your turn. It's not once per cycle. It's once per turn. +1, draw a card, discard a card, loot. -3, target creature you don't control phases out. Those are some new words for a lot of you. Treat it and anything attached to it as though it didn't exist. It doesn't exile. It doesn't go anywhere. It just stops being. If it's enchanted, if it's got counters on it, those also stop being, and they don't unattach from it. They just stay. And then next turn, it just comes back and reappears. It's weird. Just don't worry about it. Just put a blanket over that card. It doesn't exist that turn. -10, take 2 extra turns after this one. Yeah, Teferi's pretty darn crazy. He's just real good. He's just real good. 3 loyalty, and looting every turn, my turn and my opponent's turn, is great. You're going to get 4, you're going to get 5. By the time it's back to you, it's at 6 loyalty. Phasing out a creature is going to really help out, and then it's not going to take too long until you get to take a couple extra turns. It's going to take like 4 turns or something. Solid card, A+. Teferi's just good. A+ for Teferi, Master of Time. Up next is Teferi's Ageless Insight. Teferi's Ageless Insight is 2 blue for a legendary enchantment at rare. If you would draw a card, except the first one you draw in each of your draw steps, draw 2 cards instead. I don't know. 4 mana, we can't stack them. We only get the 1. Obviously, really good for the blue-green draw deck. So you don't get the extra card on your first draw, but you do get them on anything else that you happen to be doing. And it does not count on your opponent's turn. So like if I cast the 1 and a blue, draw a card on my opponent's turn, it doesn't count because that's still the first card. So I don't know. I think it's very build around. I think it's an F in a number of decks, and in some decks I think it can be like a 4 mana hurts. I really don't like that. C+. Yeah, it's not a card that I super want to play, but you can build around it. Up next is Fairies Protojet. Fairies Protojet is 2 and a blue for a creature, human, wizard at common. It's a 2/3. Pay 1 and a blue, tap, draw a card, then discard a card. It's a looter that we have to pay for in a set that we already have looters. Like free looters. Yeah, not super stoked on it. It's a 2/3 for 3. Yeah, there's just better cards. I think it's a C. I think it's playable if you need to. Otherwise, it's very, very, very cuttable. Up next is Teferi's Tutelage. Teferi's Tutelage is 2 and a blue for an enchantment at uncommon. When Teferi's Tutelage enters the battlefield, draw a card, then discard a card. Whenever you draw a card, target opponent mills 2 cards. Here's your mill card for the format. I'm going to try this. I liked Sphinx's Tutelage quite a bit. I like these Tutelage cards. It loots when it comes in. That's pretty nifty. You can stack these. Unfortunately, they're uncommon because Wizards hates fun, I guess. But yeah, if you can get into the draw deck, you could probably mill out an opponent pretty quick with one of these. And if you do find a second one, holy moly. This is obviously super deck dependent. You must be drawing a lot of cards. You must have a plan to not just die. So it's going to range from like a B to an F, and it's entirely based on your deck. And you best believe I'm going to try to play it. Up next is Tide Skimmer. Tide Skimmer is 3 and a blue for a creature Drake at uncommon. It's a 2/3 flyer. Whenever you attack with 2 or more creatures with flying, it's got Flying Battalion. Draw a card. 2/3 flyer for 4? And if I'm already just utterly dominating my opponent, I get to draw a card. Cool. Like, we're debating... Chat has this correct. We're debating between is this a C+ or a B-. It's not bad. And it does include itself. It does include itself. I guess if we're attacking with 2 flyers, we're not necessarily destroying our opponent quickly. We're just destroying them decently quickly. Yeah, it's probably fine. It's probably, I think, a weak B-, assuming that you are in, I believe, the flyers deck. And it'll find you more flyers. It'll find you your removal. It'll find you your interaction. So yeah, let's go with a B-. B- for Tide Skimmer. Up next is Tellurian Kraken. Tellurian Kraken is 4 blue for a creature Kraken at uncommon. It's a 4/6. Whenever you draw a card, you may pay 1. When you do, you may tap or untap target creature. So it's a 4/6 for 6. Not a fan of that. When I draw my card at the start of my turn, I can pay a mana and tap a creature to attack in, but it's going to untap on their next turn. My creatures will all be untapped, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to, to do what I want to do with this card, I need to draw cards on my opponent's turn and also still have mana left to pay to tap their creatures. Feels a bit rough. So I think there's probably just better ways to do this. I think Frost Breath does everything that I want this card to do other than be a 4/6. So I'm going to go C- on this, I think. I don't think I want to play this card. We'll have to see how it goes, but I'm going to go with a C-. I think the ceiling is like a C+. I don't think we're going on a B-. I think somebody is suggesting it as a D+ to a B-. Up next is Tome Anima. Tome Anima is 3 and a blue for a creature spirit at common. It's a 3/3. Tome Anima can't be blocked as long as you've drawn 2 or more cards this turn. So you draw your 1 card, you need to draw 1 more card somehow to get a 3/3 unblockable. It's very good art of course it's by Johannes Voss. Yeah, it's a 4-mana 3/3, which I'm not happy with, and then it's unblockable if I'm drawing cards. Okay, if I'm drawing an extra card every single turn, this is a C. C+, I guess. Yeah. I think there's better cards to play in every deck that wants this card, so I go with a C- on this, or yeah, just a C-. Because the turns where this is a 3/3 that you paid 4 for and not unblockable, C-. Up next is Unsubstantiate. Unsubstantiate is 1 and a blue for an instant add uncommon. Return target spell or creature to its owner's hand. It's bounce. It's fantastic. It's not unsummon, I know, but I'll pay 2 mana for it. This is great. This is going to ruin all of those people who are making their turn 2 angel token. I love Unsubstantiate. I rate this as a B-. I definitely overrate these a little bit. It does return target spell as well. You can counter something. That's not how you want to play this card. Keep it in mind because it occasionally will be useful, but that's not why you're grading this card. That's not why you're taking this card. B- for Unsubstantiate. I love bounce. I love bounce a lot. And there's some scary stuff in here. If your opponent reanimates their whale on turn 4, they're not going to reanimate it a second time, hopefully, or at least not quickly. You can bounce it and buy yourself a lot of time. I think this will be very good in this format, so I'm going to keep it at a B- here. And realistically, I'm going to pick it like an A. Up next, last card, second last card, somewhere around there, is Voldalian Arcanist. Voldalian Arcanist is 1 and a blue for a creature merfolk wizard at common. It's a 1/3 tap to add colorless. Spend this mana only to cast an instant or sorcery spell. Are you the blue-red spells deck? Yes? Cool. You want this card. You want multiples of this card. It's very good in the blue-red spells deck. It's like a... I think B minus is too high. I think it's a very strong C plus for the blue-red spells deck. If you are not the blue-red spells deck, you don't want this. It's like a D plus. Well, C minus is still a 1/3 for 2. But yeah, play this in the correct deck and don't in not the correct deck. Up next is Waker of Waves. Waker of Waves is 5 blue for a creature whale at uncommon. It's a 7/7. Creatures your opponents control get -0/-0. Pay 1 and a blue. Discard Waker of Waves. Why would you do that? Look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put one of them into your hand and the other into your graveyard. So it's a 7/7 that makes my opponent's faces weaker. That's fine. You don't even need a discard outlet to get this into your graveyard, though, for the reanimation, because it discards itself, and it gives you a little bit of a surveil there, which is decent. So this is another of the reanimation targets, like Pursued Whale and Waker of Waves. They're all whales. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine if you're in that deck. If you're casting this naturally, you're going to feel very bad. I think if you're putting this in your deck, it's kind of like cycling, I guess, like a Greater Sandworm. You could put it in your deck. If you find yourself at 7 mana, you've got a 7/7. If you don't find yourself at 7 mana, you can pay 1 and a blue and do a weird surveil cycle kind of thing. So, I don't know. It's probably like a C plus, B minus. Is there any blue deck that doesn't want this? With the Sandworm kind of idea. I think it might just be a B minus in every blue deck, and then if you are blue-black reanimation, it's going to be a little teensy bit higher than that. Up next is Wall of Runes, our second last card for real this time. Wall of Runes is a single blue mana for a creature wall at common. It's an 0/4 with Defender. When it DTBs, it scries 1. I remember this card being just okay some of the time if you didn't quite get there in Hour Devastation or wherever this card was. It must be Hour because that's an Eternal on there. It's not really a good card. It's like a D. You need to have a reason to play this card, and that reason is typically, oh god, oh god, oh god, I need to get to the late game. And this will help you do that for a little bit. Or the Spark. If you don't need to get to the late game, if you just have better cards, you shouldn't play this. It's like a D+. Generally don't play this. Our final card is Wishcoin Crab. Wishcoin Crab is 3 and a blue for a creature crab at common. It's a 2/5 with exactly what I just said about the wall, except it's a little bit better than that. If you need to get to the late game, this is going to let you get to the late game. 2/5 blocks really well, even eats a few things. It is a strong C if you need to get to the late game. There are going to be decks where you just don't want to play this. It blocks the ground really well for your blue-white flyers deck, holds the ground for your blue-black reanimation deck. Honestly, this might be a card that actually every blue deck probably would be okay with 1, but you're not going out of your way for it. So it's just a C for Wishcoin Crab. So that's going to wrap it up for the blue set review. Again, interesting cards in blue. Unfortunately, the Mythic sucked. Discontinuity? But I'm super happy to try out blue-black reanimator. A lot of blue bounce that I'm very happy about. Let me know in the comments down below what you are excited to play, what you agree with, disagree with, etc. Make sure you're following over on Twitch, where you could be part of these people up here for future live stream drafts. I'll be doing the usual early access stream, etc. So make sure you're following that. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.